All right. So I'm going to go through just how you can set up a project in Materio and what that means for the organization and all of the details of the projects that you're working on. We've got a great group of people here today. Sounds like we're design build, we're builders. So we're working on, full house or at least bigger projects like kitchens in a home. And that means we're going to have drawings. That means we are going to be having a lot of decisions that need to be made by our team and by our clients. So the one cool thing about Materio is it is all built on top of a visual. So I have a floor plan here. I can upload multiple floor plans, elevations. I could incorporate my concept boards or mood boards here so that I can communicate visually. This just gives you a place to determine what is going to be on this project. How can I best represent that to my team and my client? And how can I keep my versions under control? So as you are building out new floor plans, you can come in, replace those, keep track of your versions so that your team knows, hey, this is the latest version. As well as even before we start to outline the scope of work of this project, if you are working on drawings in your team, or if you're going back and forth with your client or architect, it's a great place to do that by uploading, allowing your clients to come in and leave feedback on the plan as you're doing space planning. Or lead designers, you might have some feedback for your team doing the drafting work. You could do that here, resolve those comments, and then upload new versions. So it's great for communicating about what needs to happen on a project, and we get to talk directly about the thing, the floor plan, the thing we're all trying to talk about, or the items as we start to build out scope. So then I'm going to use our scope starter. This is a tool that allows you to just think critically about what is on a project, what is on this project. Because sometimes as a builder or even as a designer, you might be trying to orient yourself to the project and understand, well, what is it that I'm promising to the client? What is it that they need? So maybe this house has 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, 0 half baths. We're going to be doing the kitchen, pantry, living room, dining room, foyer. Maybe we're doing the study. You can add in custom locations here. You can also customize this later. And then we're going to walk you through what are the services that we're offering? What are the categories of work that we're going to deliver on? So I might be offering, general requirements. Maybe I'm doing plans and permits because I am doing a build or a remodel. So we can kind of highlight typical items there. Maybe I'm a designer and I'm offering my design services. So I want to highlight that. There's a bunch of construction categories here that you can add in. Today, I think we have a mix of people on the call, so we'll go through more of the finishes and the organization, but you'll see that I have plumbing. It will say, hey, Mary Beth, you've got a primary bathroom, you've got so many bathrooms on this project, these are the selections that are needed, and it's just gonna help you think about that. And you may go through and say, okay, well, bathroom, 4, we don't have a tub, we just have a shower. When it comes to tile, maybe that's a similar thing. And so again, this is just going to help you start to think about what is it that is in the bathroom. So we can take that off, or what is it that's in this house? Appliances, yep, we're going to do all these. We're not doing a wine cooler, etc. All the way down to furniture. What is it that we're going to need for the rooms that you've already selected? Again, custom projects, you're always going to be adding custom categories, always going to be adding custom items when it gets to the scope. Now, this is also where you're going to set up your fee structure for your project. This is project to project in Materio, because some projects you do a fee on top, some projects you want to bake it in. If you are a builder or remodeler, sometimes you are offering a cost plus contract. That means you might want to put profit and overhead or other fees on top of your project. Those will be visible to your clients. Sometimes designers are also doing this as a fee on top. Most designers, and for hard cost builders, you're going to put your markup into the items on your scope. And this means that it's not going to be visible to your client. This is, I want to put in a certain markup on all of my items and my client will not see that. So then I'm going to go to, am I typically wholesale? And am I charging sales tax to my clients? Again, vendor tax, you'll see this later. This would be like, am I buying at retail and then, not charging my clients tax? A lot of builders do this. They just sort of get reimbursed. And a lot of designers are going to be working in a wholesale environment and then charging sales tax to their client. So now I have created an outline to my project. This is going to help me start to think about what is needed in this project. And it may just look like a list at this point, but what this is actually a living, breathing document that is going to help you continue to outline and estimate the things in your project. So let's say we want to make sure that we have, we're going to start doing electrical work or outlining for bathrooms or maybe the kitchen. And here's where I can say, great, in the we're going to need a ceiling fan here, which doesn't make sense in a bathroom, guys. Don't do that. But just for an example, I could drag these around and put them into the rooms that it's needed. And you'll notice that this has a little question mark by it. So any item in Materio that has a question mark means that it is a selection. It is something that you need to design, source, and get approval from on your client. These are going to be, the FF&E, the things that we're trying to really organize when we're running lots of projects. So I can also come in and add a custom item. I could just type whatever I want. I guess I got this project live. Let me switch this one really quick. Sorry, y'all. I'm going to step back, update this status to estimating. So we're not adding change orders here. So I can come in and add an item, custom items, as many as I want, and then I would enable this as a selection. Now you're thinking, all right, I just see a 0 here right now. How do I get to the point where I'm starting to understand what the cost of this project is going to be? I would come here and I would mark the plans. Let's say we're going to do a chandelier right here in the middle. And maybe we're doing a chandelier, the same chandelier right here. So I've got 2. You'll notice as I add the markers, it's going to quantify that for me. And then I can say that chandelier budget is $1,000 cost. I'm doing a markup and then my client tax. Maybe I also want to include what it's going to cost to ship those chandeliers to me. And here you'll see I can edit out my default rates. So maybe I don't charge, markup on delivery and shipping. Maybe I charge a 40% markup on my labor and I don't charge tax on that. And you can apply this to all of the items in your scope. This just helps set up different cost components with different markups and taxes. And then I can come in and start to, estimate what these are going to cost. And I can mark the plans. Maybe we've got 3 pendants over the island here. So again, it's helping me map out where things are going, do the estimation for me. And then when I hover over it, I can see the estimate. And as your project evolves, as you hand this off to your trades or your contractors, they're going to be able to go to the floor plan and see exactly where the selections are supposed to be and make sure that what they're installing or what they're working on or what they're quoting is very understandable. And then the second part where I think this really comes in handy is when you're starting to estimate things like floor tile, whether you're doing floor tile or wallpaper or drywall, you can use our other takeoff tools, like the area tool would help you outline the floor in this bathroom. You can add in your waste, save it, estimate the cost for sending this to you, for the labor, for the install. And there you go. You've got a really quick estimate on what that's going to cost. The next step would be following up with, I have my outline built. I'm understanding the cost of my job. This is turning into this living, breathing sort of roadmap for my project. And then I can come in and start to fill in the blanks. So you could work in your selections workspace. This is where most designers hang out all the time. The design team who is working on sourcing and putting in options, they're going to hang out here. And then you can also do it from the scope of work. So I could come right into this item and add a product here as well. So let's just say I wanted to bring in this pendant. I could do that. And again, I can do this from this workspace as well. Now you'll notice here that this has no location. That's because all of your locations and your organization is coming from the scope of work. So you just want to make sure that this wall light is in a certain location, and that will allow it to show up in the locations here in your scope of work. You can also view this by category. So let's say today you're working on sourcing or putting together all of the plumbing selections. I could sort that way and start to bring in product or options from my library here. And I could start to pull together things that I want my client to review. So let's say I start to pull things in. This is where Materio helps you think through what's open, what's left. This is a giant to-do list of all of the selections that you have in your project. And I didn't even build out the full scope of work. So as you know, you're probably managing anywhere from I don't know, 160 to 500 selections per project, depending on the size of the project. So there's a lot of decisions to keep track of. That's a lot of product to track. That's a lot of client approvals to manage. And so Materio is here to help you sort of streamline that and make you kind of walk through the process. So now you'll see that I have a few selections here. Typically, you'd build this out a bit further, but for the sake of this demo, the next phase would be sending this for approval. Yeah, so Carrie's asking if we can kind of clarify open, awaiting approval confirmed. I'm about to walk through that. So the open is all of the items that you need to source. You need to find designs for, you need to add product for. Once I go in and I send this over, I can send it by location or by category. I'm gonna send this to my client. My client's going to get an email. They're gonna clear out of the open workspace, meaning it's in my client's hands now, move to awaiting approval, and this is where they can come in and make decisions about the products that I've presented to them. So they could, their default is actually going to be location, and so they'll come in and they'll say, okay, in the primary bathroom, I think I like the white sink, and I think I like this brass faucet over the other one. So once your client comes in and starts to confirm these items, it's going to clear them out of this space, which means, hey, everything I've sent to my client is approved, and it's going to move to the confirm space. And this is where you can start to see what's approved, has it shipped, has it been ordered. Your client has a view into this space as well, where they can start to see, where's my project, how are things going, so they're not emailing you and asking you questions. But this is where you can start to manage the procurement. So I have some items approved here. The next step is typically that you're actually going to collect money or deposit at least on these items. So before I go into making a purchase order, I'll jump over to the finances and talk about invoices. I should note while we're here, anything that is approved by vendor will show up in a purchase order. So anytime it's approved by a client, it will be available to send through a purchase order. So now I'm going to go to my financial panel, and I'm going to go to invoices. In Materio, we have a concept of billing for items, scope items, rather than billing for product. So you can actually come in and you can bill for things that haven't been approved. So let's say maybe I want to collect, an electrical deposit today, and I still don't know what chandelier or what pendants are going in the kitchen, but generally speaking, I want to go ahead and collect some money on that. I can come in, I can say I want to collect a 50% deposit on all electrical. I'm going to add that to the invoice. Maybe I call this the electrical deposit. And then I can, of course, select my due date, et cetera, write any kind of memos. You can also get paid through Materio with a Stripe integration. So you can get paid using credit card, ACH transfer, or wire transfer. The default is always that the client covers the fees on those. If you don't want to accept certain methods, you could turn those off. And then I'm going to send them over. One thing to note too is that we integrate with QuickBooks Online. So if you'd like to connect your QuickBooks Online account, when I send this over, it's going to automatically sync to my QuickBooks account. So my bookkeeper or my accountant can sort of keep all of that information there really easily. And you'll notice that it's syncing. And then once I do that, I will come in. I can open this up in QuickBooks. So I'm just showing you kind of what it looks like in QuickBooks. I've got my products and other services here, as well as my tax, et cetera. So in this case, I wouldn't want to do anything about sending this invoice to my client. This is just me showing you what it looks like. They're going to get an email through Materio. They're going to be able to pay online for this deposit. And then let's say for the sake of this demo, we've already gotten a payment. Maybe they pay you by check. We'll do that. If they pay you through Stripe, that'll automatically update as paid. And so now I have that paid. That's just sort of a simple overview of how invoicing works. Now we're going to go back and look at what it's like to send a purchase order. So I'm able to send an invoice in Materio. I'm able to get paid. My clients are actually going to have a really nice view into what's estimated on the project, how much have they paid already, what's the uninvoiced scope that we're missing. And so we can always get a good, clear picture of what's going on there. So now I'm going to come in and go through sending a purchase order. There are two ways to send a purchase order in Materio. This is, I can click and record an order that I've already placed. This means that I'm going to a website like build.com, I'm placing an order, I want to attach the receipt or invoice here, and then I want to record that order. You'll notice that this is the sync, and I didn't get any payment on the sync, so actually there's no status here that it's paid. If the item was already paid for by your client, you would see that there. And then I have the ability to come in and just sort of recap what it is that that I paid. Did I actually pay $173.06? Did I end up paying something different than what was estimated for the shipping? And then how much have I paid so far? Did I pay this in full? Did I pay a deposit on it? So you can track multiple payments on this purchase order. I could put in any notes, and then it's also going to put a ship date on my timeline and then update the item to ordered. So I'm going to confirm this. And because I paid it in full, it's going to move all the way over to paid. Just a note, if you move it to confirmed and you haven't fully paid it yet, the moment it hits the confirmed column, that's when it's going to sync over to QuickBooks Online. And that's where you'll be able to convert it into a bill and actually pay the vendor if you want to over there. So I'm going to do another one where I show you sending an order to build.com. So I could come in and send an order. You should have them in your contact book. If you don't already, you can be prompted to do that right here. I'm going to send this order. And I can go in and I can put receivers. If I wanted to ship to a receiving company that I'm using, I could ship it to my company address, which is set up in your company profile, or to the project site here. So I can go ahead and just select who I want to send this to. I'm going to get a nice preview of what my vendor is going to see, and then I can send this over. When I do that, it's going to be moved to the sent column. You can also always come in and upload an invoice here. Let's say your vendor emails it back to you. You would put it right here. I can also get this shareable link to show you kind of what they see. Josh is asking about reflecting the changes between the original estimate and the actual cost. Yes, I'll get into job costing in just a minute and I'll show you where that shows up. If I don't do it when we get to finances, remind me, but I'll do that in just a second. So then I could add the invoice myself, but what I want to show you is what they would see. So your vendor is going to see this. They can again come in, upload an attachment, send you any kind of pertinent information, let you know what the total is going to be, when the payment is due, and when the product is expected to ship. They'd submit that back to you through the system, and then you would be able to come in and see that it is under needs review. This is where you could come in, confirm that you feel confident in what you're paying them. And then this is where you might want to put in, maybe you paid 50%, you could confirm it. It will show up here with some partial payments and you can continue to pay on that. Joshua, you asked about where you see the, does it affect like the estimate versus the actuals? So there are kind of a few places that you can see this in Materio. One is on your finance overview tab. This is where you can see your planned cost versus your actual cost. You can actually open up this compare estimated versus actuals. And this is where you can project a different cost at completion. You can see what was estimated and what was actually spent versus what's remaining. So for instance, I've at the moment lost a lot on this electrical category from what was estimated. So you can come in and you can tweak those numbers. And then also if you come down here, you'll see that there are itemized views into each item. So what was estimated, what was spent, how much did I spend on shipping, and where am I at with my expected profit? So that is one way to see that. Another way to kind of get a view into where you're at financially with certain categories of work and your selections is what was the total budget for this and where are we at? And this will be a great breakdown for where did my client go over and under, and sort of where are we at with the budget. Confirm selections. All right. So I don't know if that answers your question, Joshua. Let me know if it doesn't. Also, if you're syncing this information over to QuickBooks and you're using that, you should be able to run reports. Okay, perfect. It does. Okay, and then Carrie's got a question on how to convert confirmed selections into a project timeline. Yes, so we will go into timeline next. So just generally speaking, this is your financial panel before I leave here. This is where your purchase orders, if you're tracking your time and material, if your team is, it's going to show up here as an expense to the project, as well as any line item expenses. So let's say I'm tracking a subcontractor invoice or payment, I could do that here and map it back to the item in my scope of work. All right, so let's talk about timelines. So Carrie has a question about how you map selections to a project schedule. The timelines in Materio are very fluid. They're very easy to set up, and you can also set up templates for these. You'll notice that I do have some things shipping. So I have the bathroom sink shipping, the faucet shipping. That's coming through when I created the purchase order. I had an estimated ship date. So that's going to show up here. It's also going to show up down here as shipping soon. So that's one way that the selections are automatically placed onto the timeline. If I head over to the selections workspace, I can also come in and I can note that this has actually shipped. I can put tracking information in, and then I can schedule the arrival on my timeline. So I can update that. And then when I go back to my timeline, you'll see that the delivery is expected. I can drag this and move it around. And now I can also delete this faucet because it's expected delivery. So I can track the shipping and delivery on my visual timeline. And then again, I will see it in a list down here. And all of that is actually going to automatically stem from your ordering process and your tracking process in the selections workspace. Now, when it comes to actually setting up a timeline, I'm going to clear out this timeline and I'm going to use a template. So you can set up different templates. You could say, in a design project, this is what we always do. In a full house remodel, this is what we always do. So let's just say we do full house remodel. It's going to throw that template that you've created onto your project. You can always come in and customize it. And in fact, you're going to have to reassign whoever is the person taking care of something on this project, but otherwise everything else should be in an order. You'll notice that I have what we call planned task. So planned tasks are tasks that you know will happen in that phase of work every time you do that, that type of project. So maybe this is, we'll edit this one and we'll actually call this client onboarding. So let's say at the beginning of every project, we have a client onboarding phase. We know we need to have a design meeting. We need to get the contracts together. We need to get those signed. We need to collect the retainer. So I can set up these phases and it's like every single time we do this, let's check it off. And Maddie's in charge of this and Emily's in charge of this. And these are the due dates of these items. And it will arrange these by due date. And then when this phase starts, whether it's a phase all the way down here or the first phase, when that phase starts, these tasks are going to show up on your team members' personal task list on their dashboard. So they'll see those things come into play. They'll say, great, now I have some things I need to do for this project. So it's a great way to coordinate things in advance without having to rethink that task list every single time. The other thing you'll notice about phases of work on this timeline is it's really easy to add. I would just type in what it is that I want to add. I'm just giving some very poor examples here, but I would just add in phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. I'd call it whatever I want to call it. It's naturally going to be dependent on the prior phase, which means if I drag this, the whole schedule is going to shift because these are, built on top of each other. You can turn off those dependencies by clicking right here and removing them. And that just allows you to move that item more freely. So let's say I wanted to move this phase, I could do so and it would move that freely, but still keep the ones that are following it. So that allows you to set up some structure. If things shift, you can move other items that are impacted by that. Now, this is the way that you sort of navigate this timeline. You can expand this and move it. And then you'll also see that we can manage when the selections are due. This is going to be by a category level. So let's say I want to outline all the electrical selections are due by the 7th and save that. And maybe I want all of the plumbing selections to be due by the 19th. So I could save that. And it's going to put those selection due dates on my timeline so that everyone involved in the project knows. You can also share this timeline with your client, and that allows them to come in and see the progress of the project. This is also a great tool for selling a project because they can come in and see how long is it going to take, generally speaking, to do my project. So it's a great tool for sort of selling that workflow and the entire time frame for a project, especially when you're doing a large project and people are sort of wondering, what's my investment going to be? How long is this going to take? So it's a great tool for that. All right, we are at 10:28. We have 2 minutes left. I'm free to go a little bit longer. I want to open up open up for Q&A. Feel free to mute yourself or throw it in the chat if that's more comfortable for you. I didn't even go over everything. We've still got some things under activity, like adding notes and adding photos. You know, there's a lot of nitty-gritty we could get into, but that's a high-level view. Anybody have questions about something more specific, you know, that you'd want to learn about today? And I also didn't even show you guys, I apologize, there's construction happening outside. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but I actually didn't show you the clipper. So let me do the clipper really quick if no one else has questions at the moment. So one of the ways, Josh was asking a question about CAD and adding items to the library. Yes, okay, so I was actually about to add, Julie, I was gonna talk about adding to the library. So we'll start with that and then I will talk about the measurements. So first, adding items to your library. You can do that by going to a website and then pulling the product information by using our clipper. It's gonna pull in the images. You can remove those and add new ones if you want. You would categorize this in the appropriate category. You have the flexibility to set up these specific groups in your library. It's going to pull in information like the product name, the SKU, you know, vendor information. You might want to edit this description because it is client facing. So just make sure you're comfortable with that. Add in whatever your markup is at this vendor. And then you can put in the lead times, etc. You can move this left and right if it's getting in your way. And let's say you want to copy information in, like dimensions, you could do that. And then I'm going to save it to my library. And then when I go to my selections, and let's say I want to add in electrical here, I would pull in from my library this item. Items that you have clipped in the last 24 hours are going to show up as new in the top of the category. So you can easily find those. You could also add in something manual. So let's say you are adding in a custom drawing for, you know, custom shelving or custom built-ins, and you want your client to sign off on that drawing. You could upload that drawing here as a manual option, call it custom shelving design 1, and then you could put information about like what the finishes are, dimensions, who the custom vendor is, and then here you could customize like the pricing of this. How much is it going to cost? And this is all going to stem from your estimate. So if you have a general estimate for that, this should all populate. And then I could save it. This is also where you can come in and add tear sheets, installation instructions, things that you want to hand off to trades or contractors or team members at any point. You'd want to save that with the item here. The default is always going to be saving it to your library. You can always uncheck that and save it if it's something custom. So then you could add in things manually, and then you can also come and pull from a website. So let's say I wanted to actually pull in a different product here. Let's refresh. Oh, their website is very slow for some reason. Let's say I wanted to pull in this color. I could come back here and paste the website in, fetch the product details here, and it's going to pull in some information. So this works. This is sort of an experimental feature. We have it here as experimental. It's going to work, you know, 50 to 60% of the time. If you're using this, it's really convenient. But if you find that you're using the website pulling, you know, specifically and it's not working, you can always reach out to us. We're always kind of sort of improving that. But the clipper is going to work every time because you can manually enter that in and quickly pull it into your projects. And now I wanted to talk about, yes, there is a client view. So the way that you see the client view is to actually do view as on your projects as you invite them. You can also control the permissions when you do invite them or even after the fact. You can choose, do you want to show them like the line item pricing? Again, never going to show your markup. It's just, do you want them to sign off on a line item price? Do you want to show them category totals, or do you want to show them a lump sum for the project? You can also give them permissions to view the timeline, suggest products to you, view attachments, and view product sources. Most designers want to keep that off by default. All of these are actually default off. Usually you don't want to share your sources. And then you can also control the notifications that your clients are getting. So how often are they getting notified about certain things on the project, which is great if you just want to control that client experience and make sure that they're seeing the right things. So I can save those, and then I can always come in and view as the client. This is going to let you know what they're seeing. You'll notice that when I did that, I'm not actually seeing what my firm is working on. I can only see the things that are sent to me and then the things that are approved and confirmed. And so depending on the client's role, you will see different finances. So for instance, clients don't see an overview, but they're going to see an overview of their invoices and what's what they have outstanding. So they have a little bit of a different view. You can always explore that there. And then I will actually show you as well the client dashboard in just a second, but I want to answer Joshua's question about the does it provide CAD measurements? Can I notate plumbing and electrical in the takeoffs? We don't integrate with any sort of CAD. What you're doing is setting the scale on a PDF that is added to the project. And then I believe you can do plumbing and electrical. I don't know if there's a specific question that you want to ask around that, but we have designers and builders using this platform day in and day out, and they're estimating their entire projects here. So my answer is, I'm inclined to say absolutely yes, but I don't know if there's something more specific that you want to ask there. Happy to also, Joshua, if you're more construction oriented, happy to schedule a separate call, because I know we've covered a lot of design where we can talk about construction. So if you're interested in that, drop your email in the chat also, and I'll be sure to reach out. And then Julie asked, okay, perfect. And then is there a client? I'm going to show you the client portal. And then in regards to the client notes, does it automate a daily workflow to them when a job site is active? So clients are going to be getting an email if you have turned that on for them. They're usually generally going to be getting reports on, so you'll notice comments that mention them is something you have the ability to give them immediately. Otherwise, you can do within the hour or by end of day. And for instance, selection decisions, that's going to be if one partner goes in and approves something, they're not going to get an email about it, but the other partner, would get notified that decisions have been made on their projects, or if any sort of floor plan changes happen. Generally speaking, they're going to be getting these within the hour or at the end of the day. That's the typical settings. And it's not really a daily briefing for the clients on a note. Rather, what you would do is send them a progress report in the activity feed here. So the activity feed is internal for your firm only. But what this does is if you go in and add, let's say I add in, went to the job site today and looking good. I could come in, I could add in some photos here, and then I could save this as a note to the project. I can also do this from the mobile app. And then when I want to go in and share this with my client, it's not automatic. We suggest doing this at the end of the week. I would prepare a report, select the date range, and then it would pull up photos that were added in that time frame, what the notes were, anything that was approved, what's coming up on the timeline because this client has visibility into the timeline, and then what kind of decisions are coming up. So you can customize this report here by typing whatever you want to them. If you are tracking your time in Materio, your notes, your field notes are going to populate right here. So you can easily pull in information about what's happened on the job this week, and you can kind of craft that into a message for your clients. You would send this over to them ideally like once a week, maybe on a Friday, and this is going to give them a report of what is done. So the notes and the photos are not automatically shared with your client. It's something that you can decide to use Materio to compose for you, and then share that with them at a cadence that makes sense for you and gives you some flexibility on customizing that. Do selections have to be confirmed to set ship dates and timelines? So if we go over to the selections workspace, they do have to be in the confirmed workspace to set ship dates. And that's because generally speaking, you would not be ordering or shipping things that your client has not approved or you as the firm has not approved. So you could always come in as the firm and approve something if you know you want to move forward with it, and it would show up here. And once it's in this confirmed space, that's when you're going to go in and start to manage, the shipping, or is it received, in progress, etc. And that's just a standard workflow. It's protecting you from ordering or tracking anything that your client hasn't signed off on. All right, I'm going to share the client portal. Let's go back here and do new share this one. Okay, so This is the client portal. This client has multiple projects on it because this is a test account. Obviously, yours would only have one, maybe two max. Your logo is going to show up at the top. It's going to just be this simple interface. They'll have some action items. If there's any selections awaiting their approval here, I would just click into that. It's going to take me right to where the selections are that need my attention. I can come in and communicate with my firm about these decisions. As I'm making choices as a client, I can see what else I've selected in that room. So that can give me some context to what I'm making a decision on, so I can approve this. If I'm exceeding the allowance or the budget for this item, it is going to let me know so that I'm agreeing to it. If you've decided to not show your clients any pricing specifically, then that won't even be a question there. It'll just ask them to confirm. Again, as a client, I can see the confirmed workspace. I'm not going to be able to see things like shipping notes. I'm not going to be able to see things like purchase orders or anything like that these items are on. Like, you're going to see that from your side as a firm, but I do get a nice view into my project. And I do get a lot of transparency into where my investments are going. So it does give me the ability as the client to really dig around and understand where things are at. Also, let's say people love to talk about their projects. They want to showcase, oh, these are the countertops that I'm working on, or the floor, and they're really excited about it. It gives them a way to talk about it. It gives them a way to give you feedback, and it also gives them a way to see where their $1.1 million are going. And they get it in this nice, clean portal that shows their logo and who they're working with. So at the moment, that is the client portal. And now I think I've gone over everything. Let me double check the questions here. Yeah, I think I've hit all of the questions. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Are there any other questions or thoughts about you know, specifics? I've kind of gone through all the basics. Anybody? Super helpful to think. Great. Okay. Well, I'm excited that you all have joined. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with me today and to learn about the system. I will follow up with a recording to all of you with this. If you have further questions, like Joshua, if you have further construction questions, just respond to that email. Let us know. We can always answer them or set up a separate call. But it's been so great to be able to show this to you. Y'all have a great day.